Welcome back to the BDTV Breakfast Show. This is the big story, and this is where we dive into key conversations shaping our nation. Today, we take a look at the recent meeting held by the Ogoni leaders and the President Bola Tinubu together with the Rivers State Governor Fubara on Tuesday, January 21st. President Bola Tinubu met with the people of Ogoniland, led by Governor Fubara of Rivers State at the State House in Abuja. Now, this meeting aimed to encourage the Ogoni leaders to embrace dialogue and mutual trust and work together to bring peace, development, and environmental restoration to Ogoniland, which had suffered environmental degradation for many years due to oil exploration. The meeting was also seen as a move by President Tinubu towards the resumption of oil exploration in Ogoniland, which has been abandoned for over 30 years due to crises that arose from the murder of some Ogoni sons, including Ken Saro-Wiwa, an activist who was hung by the military administration of the late General Sani Abacha on November 10, 1995. Some Nigerians have described this move by President Tinubu as a welcome development, which could go a long way in helping Nigeria achieve its target of 2 million barrels per day of crude production. Now, to examine these issues is Odinaka Anudu. It is Business Day's deputy editor and an investigative journalist who has done extensive work around the Ogoni cleanup. Also, we're being joined via Zoom from Port Harcourt by Fine Face Dumnamene. Fine Face is the Executive Director of the Youth and Empowerment Advocacy Center, Nigeria. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, it's good to have you. So let's get into the conversation. Very well, thank you so much. Many have described the president's move towards reconciliation in Ogoniland as a positive development. Do you agree with this? Let me start with you, Mr. Fine Face.
Thank you very much. I think the move is a positive development, but from the wrong direction. As far as I am concerned, it is more like a confrontation to the people of Ogoni, because the president puts at the forefront issue of oil resumption in Ogoni, other than putting at the forefront the issue that has to do with resolving the challenges that led to the oil stoppage in 1993. So the president is prioritizing the resumption of crude oil extraction in Ogoni over the crisis that led to the stoppage of oil extraction in Ogoni. This is where the issue is. Otherwise, it's a welcome development, because what is being done today, 32 years after the stoppage of oil production in Ogoni, is something that ought to have been done even 10 years ago, or 10 years after, or 20 years after, it ought to have been done. So initiating this process is a welcome development, but putting oil extraction at the forefront as the reason why you are coming into Ogoni, without having to address the issues that led to the stoppage of oil extraction in 1993, becomes the main challenge here. That is why I like the way you have captioned the story. It's a big story, and Ogoni reconciliation. Reconciliation should be at the forefront before we talk about oil extraction.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fine Face. Let me ask Mr. Odinaka, who's also joining us virtually today, if I wonder if he has any additions to what you've said.
Yes, I think I completely agree with him. I mean, when I heard that the president was going to, was bringing Ogoni leaders to Asorok and trying to talk about what happened in order to go back again, I was excited. But when I found out that it was just about oil exploration, I was disappointed, because the point is that Ogoni actually deserves reconciliation. Reconciliation is a welcome development, but I do not think that the president should be thinking about going back to Ogoni again to explore oil. And I'm going to explain this. I'm going to throw more light on this subsequently. Thank you.
Okay, but why do you think it took the federal government this long? It's about 32 years to make this move. Why do you think it took this long?
All right, I guess that question was directed to me.
Yes, it was directed to you.
All right, I think first of all, we need to understand the history of Ogoni. After the death of Ogoni 9, during the tenure of, or rather during the dictatorship of Sani Abacha, nobody was actually allowed. The youths became restive. So Ogoni became a kind of a war front. So it was not easy for the federal government to go back again and start exploring oil. So until several years after, when during the Buhari regime, when they started the so-called Ogoni cleanup, so they understood that they needed to do a cleanup before they go back. Unfortunately for them, the cleanup is not very smooth, but I'm still going to talk about that subsequently. But I think it took the federal government this long because in the first place, after the death of that Ogoni and Saro-Wiwa, it became very difficult for Ogoni, and the youth became restive. There was so much apprehension in the four local governments in Ogoni State. I mean Ogoni nation. So that's exactly what I think happened.
Thank you, Mr. Aldinaka. So, Dr. Fanface, some people believe that the Ogoniland cleanup and remediation initiated by the previous government should be completed before any talk about oil exploration resumption in Ogoniland. But what's your own view on this?
That is my view as well, because Ogoni environment is polluted. Ogoni environment is yet to be cleaned up, and the pollution on the ground, which the people demand for environmental justice over, was part of what led to the crisis in the 1990s. So one would expect that we should clean up the initial pollution before we talk about adding new pollution in the process of extracting oil. The point here is that if oil extraction begins in Ogoni today, environmental pollution, oil spills will continue in addition to what we already have on the ground. So one will expect the federal government to complete the process of cleaning up the area, restoring the environment, and then bringing in technology and experts that will design the process of ensuring that new or resumption of oil extraction will not contribute to additional environmental pollution. Because what we have in Ogoni today is such that the environment is so polluted that it is not good to say that, okay, cleanup is going on. We are trying to clean up the mess that they have polluted over the years. And then there is a new extraction, which is like opening the tap again, where crude oil is pouring into the environment, and we are also trying to clean it up. So it will be a kind of double jeopardy. So the point here is that we have to understand the environmental cleanup that is ongoing. And we have been made to know by those who are privy to information within HYPRED, which is the hydrocarbon pollution remediation project, handling the Ogoni cleanup project, that the federal government of Nigeria has not injected even a kobo into the cleanup process. What is happening is that the multinational oil company, especially Shell, that contributed to the pollution in Ogoniland, is carrying out the cleanup by providing the $1 billion US initial take-up grant for the cleanup to commence. So that is what we have. It's under the polluter pay principle. So that is what is being practiced today in Ogoniland. So the federal government should show commitment to really be able to address the issue before we talk about oil resumption, because you can't be cleaning and at the same time emptying crude oil into the environment. There is hardly any place around the Niger Delta where oil extraction is ongoing that pollution is not happening almost on a daily basis. The breaking news in the Niger Delta of recent have been any day that passes by without oil spill. Even as we speak, you heard about the Bukuma oil spill that is ongoing for over 6 weeks now.
Right.
The spill is flowing. The moment they open tap in Ogoniland, a kind of Christmas tree in Ogoniland, that will also continue to happen and damage the environment. So the cleanup should be completed before we talk about oil resumption in Ogoniland.
You mentioned that the cleanup should be completed, but do you mind telling us what's the degree of cleanup that's been done as of now?
Yeah, the degree of cleanup cannot be outrightly mentioned, but the point here is that the cleanup following the UNEP report that was released on August 4, 2011 started in 2016 when it was flagged up. Between 2016 and 2011, 2021, then we should be talking about 5 years completed. This is 2025, so we are just in the 9th year of the environmental remediation that UNEP report said was going to take 25 to 30 years. So we have not even done up to 40% of the environmental cleanup in Ogoniland. So we have to at least be able to complete the first 20 years. Then we look at what we have done and then what is remaining before we can now go into that. And as we speak, the $1 billion US that was the amount for the project as a take-off grant, we heard that the money has not even been fully, provided for HYPRED to use. But if that is the case, then it means that we are still far from getting this done. Remember the environmental audit of the Bayelsa State environment that was done said that $12 billion US should be provided to clean up the environment in Bayelsa State. Wow. And that of Ogoni, that is larger, and this has happened over the years, $1 billion is what we are talking about, and all of this have not really been provided. So the percentage of cleanup is still very poor for us to talk about oil resumption in the Ogoni area.
Thank you for shedding more lights on that for us. But apart from the cleanup, some NGOs are advocating for compensation for families whose loved ones were killed. Do you think those advocating for this have any case? Now, this question is for you, Dr. Fineface, and also for you, Mr. Odinaka.
Yeah, let me start by saying that those families deserve to be compensated, because even when you are talking about cleanup, you cannot just be cleaning the environment without cleaning the people. The act of compensating the people is act of cleaning the people. And sometimes we keep talking about cleanup. Sometimes when you go to you're advocating to them, what is going, they will tell you that they are tired of hearing about cleaning up. They should clean down by having to clean the people. So those compensation is part of the entire package of what we call the cleanup that they will be doing to the environment. I've had the opportunity of being taken from here to the United States of America, Gulf of Mexico, where there was oil spill, I think in 2010. And the oil spill process did not only talk about providing billions of dollars to clean up the environment, but it was also part of what they provided to clean up the people by paying compensation. If you look at the entire package of the Ogoni cleanup project that you have in the UNEP report, there is no provision for compensation to the people. The only thing you see there is a 10 million US dollars to be used as, part of the process of providing alternative livelihood opportunities for youth who are involved in illegal refineries in the Ogoni area. So if $10 million is what they only put there, what about other people, fishermen, farmers whose environment have been destroyed? So I think that as part of that process, compensating the people is key. And that is why the new civil society position now is that $1 trillion US dollars should be provided to carry out holistic remediation of not just Ogoni environment, but the Niger Delta environment. And I think that is the way to go.
Absolutely, that's the way to go. Mr. Odinaka, you did some investigation in Ogoniland. You mind telling us some of the things you found out at that time?
First of all, let me start by saying that the money that was provided by SPDC, 4 companies, Shell, Total, NNPC, and AGI, is about $572 million. That was around as at 2022, $572 million. So these 4 companies were actually the polluters in chief, because they were the guys, especially Shell, that polluted Ogoni. So they came together and formed a company known as SPDC. And then they promised about $900 million, believing that the government, this federal government, would bring $100 million. At the end of the day, what they were able to raise was $572 million. But I also found out that part of the reasons why they stopped funding was that there were several complaints from several organizations that the work was not very smooth. For example, when I was doing an investigation, there were things I found. The first one, number one, is that I found that some of the companies, because the company handling is HiPrep. So HiPrep awarded contracts to so many companies that were doing one thing or the other in different communities. So what I found was that HiPrep awarded contracts to some companies that were not existing. In the Nigerian law, if a company is not registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, that company does not exist. So there were several companies, and these things were published. They have not denied that over 2 years. So these companies are not registered, but they got contracts from HiPrep. Number 2 is that I also found out that some of these companies did not have previous remediation experience. Because what they are doing in Niger Delta is not just cleanup, it's actually called remediation. Remediation means that they are going to take the environment back to how it was before the oil spillage. But that's not happening, because I was able to investigate and found out that some places where crops were germinating or growing, crops are no longer germinating or growing in those places. That means remediation has not happened. Because remediation means that they're going to take the earth or the environment back to the way it was. Then the third thing is that I also found out that there were several communities, and this is about the whole of 2023 and early 2024 I was in Ogoni. So I found out that there were several communities that were supposed to receive water, but had not received water. There are several, when it comes to politics, I can tell you that there is so much politics. Another interesting thing is that, this cleanup was divided into lots. So lots, lot 1, lot 2, lot 2. Each of these lots, there's a company handling it. So a company can be responsible for cleaning up, let's say, 5 lots in a community in Ogoni. So what they do is that sometimes some of the lots, I found out that, for example, I think it was about lot 54 or so. So that was actually included as one of the lots that were cleaned by HiPrep or the contractor. But there was no lot 54. I'm not sure if it's 54, 55, but there was a particular lot that was listed that was said to have been cleaned, but it did not exist. So these were some of the findings I also got from them. I mean, I interviewed extensively different people, including traditional rulers, who also told me what they found. The truth is that even up till now, so many communities are not confident of high prep. They believe that this is one of the things the government is doing to embezzle money. Thank you.
So, Mr. Odnaka, do you think that those advocating for compensation, do you think they have any case?
Of course, yes. Of course, yes. In fact, in the course of the investigation, I found that I was able to interview people whose legs were either charred or hit by bullets. They claimed that there was a time a shell brought soldiers who started shooting at them, or rather who shot at them. So they deserve compensation. Some of them have died. I must tell you, they were really now names of those who were no more at that time, who had died. But there are still people who are alive today that deserve compensation. Even the families of those who are dead should be compensated. And the final thing I want to say is that what's happening in Ogoni is beyond environmental pollution. It's also about the lives of the people. There was something I did in Ogoni. So I took the water and fish from one of their rivers in Gokana local government. So I tested it, alongside a lecturer in one of federal Nigerian universities. So we tested it in Nigeria and South Africa to find out exactly whether the water and the fish they consume around that area is actually safe for consumption. So we found out that the water and fish are actually polluted. And even the fish, somebody who consumes the fish can actually get cancer. And those who are swimming in that water can actually get cancer or some of the other diseases that I mentioned. So this is scientific. It went through the lab, came out, and we found those things. So these are some of the things that we found. So I believe that they deserve to be compensated.
These are truly interesting findings from you, Mr. Odinaka. But let me come back to you, Dr. Fineface. So Nigeria apparently must expand its crude production to earn more forex to implement the 2025 national budget. How much of a help do you think that oil exploration from Ogoniland will be?
Yeah, I think Nigeria today remembered the Ogoni area because they now need oil to fund the 2025 budget, 2026, 2027, and going forward. This is when they now remember, oh, we have oil in Ogoni. Let's go to Ogoni and get the oil. But if they knew that they were actually genuine about taking oil from Ogoni, they would have started the reconciliatory process since. The oil in Ogoni is in billions of barrels that we still have under the ground. And Ogoni is even said to have more gas than even the oil we are talking about. So putting all of this together, Ogoni is a better source for them to have oil. But if they do not take time to ensure that they quickly declare an emergency on Ogoni issue by way of being able to put aside certain laws that will slow them down to address the Ogoni issues, and then be able to approach it holistically through massive, all-embracing consultation, they may not be able to take oil from Ogoni in the next 5 years. That is to say, if they depended on the Ogoni oil to fund the 2025 budget, it won't happen because a lot of wounds are still fresh in Ogoniland, and you cannot be able to put plaster on a live wound you have not pressed with warm water. So the process of them being able to drill even a liter, or let me say a barrel of crude from Ogoni, is still very, very far. Because as we speak, Ogoni people are divided over that meeting with Mr. President on January 21st. And that meeting, grievances are coming from everywhere. Those who felt they were sidelined from attending the meeting, those who don't want oil extraction to go on, those who want the issues in Ogoni to be addressed before oil can be taken, and those who were not even aware that such thing was going on before it happened. One would have expected that Mr. President will visit Ogoniland as the first way of addressing the issue. What Ogoni people would have loved to hear is that Mr. President will be visiting Ogoniland on such days, and then he will have meeting with the people, and in the process of his speech, he will not mention that all the grievances of the Ogoni people that led to the stoppage of oil in 1993 will be addressed in the shortest possible time, so that when that has been achieved and everyone is happy, we can now talk about extracting oil so that the Ogoni youth, sons and daughters, can be employed in the process of getting this done. Then we'll begin to build it up from there. for selecting a few people to Abuja, and then you speak to the entire Ogoni people from there, and then ask them to go back home and speak so that they can address the issue. It will only create more friction within Ogoni, more division within Ogoni. Those who went to Abuja today, some Ogoni people are already seeing them as vultures, because Ogoni people have a way of tagging the people who are benefiting from what others forbid. So if care is not taken, that very meeting is going to cause more problem in Ogoniland that they will spend the whole of 2025 trying to address, even before coming into the consultation or discussing with the people about bringing about extracting even a barrel of oil from Ogoni. So the road is still very far for the federal government of Nigeria. The National Security Advisor has been given the directive to go and address the issue. The road for him is still very, very far. In fact, that action they took, because the report from the federal government in their statement is that over 50 Ogoni people were taken to Abuja, addressing the interests of these over 50 Ogoni people as we speak is a bigger problem to them. Likewise, the one they are trying to solve. Because even some of them who attended the meeting are saying that they were not allowed to speak. That is to say, they are not even happy being there, that their name is mentioned in the process of going there, but their opinion was not heard because they were not given opportunity to speak. So Ogoni today is divided and more charged than like it was in the 1990s. So I think that a lot is there for them to do before they can take even a barrel of crude from Ogoniland.
Mr. Fine Face, for those submissions you made on the show this morning, as well as you, Mr. Odinaka. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on this conversation. We look forward to a positive outcomes of the meeting with the Ogoni community and the federal government. But this has been the big story on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching.